How's everybody doing? So, I'm getting back to sorting TimeSpiral today. This right here is, each row is sorted by set, columns by color, and I'm sorting through it. Hasn't been sorted yet. I'm gonna have this all sorted and put away by the end of the day. But well, here's the fun thing, guys, now you might remember the other day when I started this, I told you there was so much to talk about in TimeSpiral. I started putting aside, just as I was sorting through just this box. So this box was full when I started sorting through it. Just sorting through that much. Nice. This is the stack of cards that I put aside that I wanted to talk about, and I could easily have found more. There was so much going on in TimeSpiral. It was one of my favorite blocks. It's right up there with Ravnica and Tempest. So much going on. So much. So let's get started talking about some of these cards, because otherwise this is going to take forever and a day. And this is going to be the last day I do of TimeSpiral, because I don't want to be on it forever. So anything I really miss, I apologize, but there's just so much to cover. We got things like, bam, Catherine Raiders from Future Sight. He's one card synergy. He's a 3/3 for 5 mana. He's got Morph, which means you can pay 3 colors and play him as a face-down creature with no types, no color, a 2/2. He's got Hellbent. Oh, as long as he's face up, he's got Hellbent, and he's a 3/3. On Hellbent, however, he gets an additional +2/+2 when you have no cards in hand. No cards in hand is Hellbent. It's resurrected ability from Ravnica block. It was the Red-Black guilds, the Rakdos. Took me a second. It was the Rakdos guilds mechanic. And the thing is, his morph cost, the cost to turn him face up after you've played him as a face down creature, is discarding a card. 1 card synergy. That's awesome stuff. That's awesome stuff. Ghostfire. 2 colors and a red for a colorless instant that deals 3 damage to target creature or player. The first colorless non-artifact spell in the game. And this is a precursor in many ways to what we'd see in Rise of the Eldrazi. What else we got here? We got Zealot and Vec. He's a 1/1 shadow. When he attacks and isn't blocked, you may have him deal 1 damage to a target creature. If you do, prevent all combat damage he would do. This is very similar to the mechanic from Fallen Empires that got nicknamed Sabotage, which is if this creature attacks and is not blocked, you may forego it dealing combat damage for an effect. For instance, Feral Zealot, which this one obviously references, would do damage to a creature instead of would do damage to a creature in exchange for its combat damage. Nechrite, you'd sacrifice to destroy a creature if it wasn't blocked, instead of getting combat damage, which is why I refer to the, I can't think of what his name is, the 2/2 black guy with fear and new Phyrexia, that if he deals combat damage to an opponent, you may sacrifice him to destroy a creature. I tend to refer to him as a fixed Nechrite. A better Nechrite, whatever. Count the stack. Sangrophage is basically a larger version of Carnophage from Tempest, and instead of a black for a 2/2 and pay 1 life during your upkeep or he becomes tapped, it's black for a 3/3 and pay 2 life. Just a reference, he's bigger. We have the Deathspore Thalids. We had Thalids in black, and there's a white one in here somewhere. Let me put this camera down for a second. I should have put those together before I started talking. Oh well. There he is. The Pallid Mycoderm. We had Thalids in green, when white. Of course, they're still predominantly in green. We had the one odd Thalid in black. Plus we had Thelon of Havenwood, who had an activated ability that required green and black mana. I'll be perfectly blunt. As much as I think the Deathspore Thallid is a really good card overall, it doesn't fit well in Thallid decks because black just doesn't add enough value to the whole Thallid philosophy. I've found overall the color that has the most to offer Thallid is blue. Hey, you know, these things happen. Anyways, yeah, I could talk for a while just on Thallids if I wanted to. I've been playing Thallid decks since Fallen Empire, so take that for what it will. Mind Stab. This is one of several spells that references mechanics you'd see on older creatures. It's named after the Mind Stab Thrall from Fallen Empires. There's a couple other things you'll see in there along those lines, like Gaze of Justice is it's a white spell where you can, I believe, you tap creatures and you play it and you destroy a non-white creature or some craziness like that. I don't remember exactly what it does off the top of my head, but it's a complete and total reference to the card Hand of Justice from Fallen Empires. Iron Claw Buzzardeers, reference to the Iron Claw orcs from many ages past, and to a lesser degree the Brass Claw orcs from Fallen Empires. You pump red mana, gains flying till end of turn, which also in a way makes it a reference to Goblin Balloon Brigade. Grape Shot. It was a sorcery version of a card from Onslaught block, I believe it was, where they had the Storm mechanic. The Storm mechanic was stupid broken. I didn't like the Storm mechanic. They've tried to, on the handful of cards they brought it back for, in TimeSpiral, they tried to make them less insane. For instance, Grape Shot's a sorcery instead of an instant. There actually was one card with Buyback and Storm, which was interesting. It gave, I want to say it was all your creatures +1/+0 or something crazy like that, or a target creature. I can't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, and there was also a card where you grabbed a red card with Storm, where you grabbed a card at random from your opponent's hand and did damage equal to that card's convert mana cost, all sorts of crazy stuff. Can't really read it, but this is Viscid Lemures. It's or you can call it lemurs if you want. It's okay. It's a reference to the card. I'm probably hacking the pronunciation of this. Hylapterus Lemures, whatever, however you want to pronounce it, from Ice Age. The original art on it, the artist thought they were talking about lemurs, the long-tailed, monkey-like animals from the island of Madagascar. Did not realize that they were referencing ancient Roman spirits of the damned, and so the original art was this thing that looked kind of like a monkey, you know, the monkey-like creature from Madagascar, and that kind of threw a lot of people for a loop. And so when they printed this one, they even made the flavor text a reference to the original art. Lemurs? Is that all? Finally, something harmless. Ignoring the wary. So much stuff going on. We got Assassinate, which is a card that just mimics the tap ability of Royal Assassin. We got Stalking Knight, which brings back a couple of abilities. He's got Flanking, like a fair number of creatures in TimeSpiral block actually did. And he's also got the drawback of when he becomes the target of a spell ability, sacrifice him. You'll see that drawback on a handful of black cards here and there over the years. It's a drawback put into the drawback is put on cards that are undercosted for their combination of power, toughness, and special abilities. For instance, you'll see it on like 3/3 creatures for 2 mana and stuff like that. Basel Thrall. They brought back Thralls. Well, with the Watcher Thrall as well. Sliver. The Basel Sliver, reference to the Basel Sliver, gives all I'm probably stumbling all over this because I'm like using Thrall and Sliver interchangeably, aren't I? Okay, let's try this one more time. The Basel Sliver is a reference to the Basel Thrall. The Basel Thrall was a black for a 1/1 or a 1/2 creature. I can't remember which off the top of my head. It wasn't a popular creature that you could sacrifice to add black to your mana pool. It was later revisited again, I believe, in Tempest with the Blood Pet, which is a smaller version. And Blood Pet would end up getting reprinted in core sets over the years a couple of times as well. But yeah, the Basel Sliver ends up giving all of your slivers the ability to be Basel Thralls. Yay. Trader's Clutch, here we have an example of Flashback. Flashback cost of a colorless and a black on a card that costs 4 colorless and a black. And target creature gets +1/+0, becomes black, and Shadow till end of turn. Shadow is another interesting mechanic to see coming back. We have the Gorgon Recluse. She had Madness. That is, if you would discard her, you can pay the Madness cost and cast her that way. It's kind of interesting. The Viscera Deepwalker was interesting, mostly in my mind, for the fact that he was a Hominid. Hadn't seen so much as one Hominid since Alliances, which, if I recall correctly, only had one Hominid in it. All the rest of them were in Fallen Empires. Drifter Ildal, blue for a 2/1 with an upkeep of blue, Shadow. These are a reference to Shadow creatures in general, and I believe it's the Spindrift Drake, which was a 2/1 flyer for a single blue mana, but had an upkeep cost of blue. There you go. Spike Tiller, he's a 3 colors double green for 0/0, comes in with 3 counters. You can pay 2 colors to move counters off of him to a creature you control, or remove 2 counter to pay 2 and remove a counter to make target land a 2/2 creature that's still a land and put a +1/+1 counter on it. That goes in with the animating land mechanic that you will that is generally almost exclusively green. You don't see it in other colors until the Zendikar enchantments in Zendikar block. But yeah, and he's also the Spike. I talked about Spikes a few days ago when I was doing Tempest. Flowstone Channeler, he's a Spell Shaper, which goes along with cards with Madness and Flashback costs. Spell Shapers you'd pay some mana and tap them and discard a card to generate an effect. The Flowstone Channeler also references the Flowstone mechanic, also from Tempest block, which I don't think I mentioned when I was doing Tempest block because it totally slipped my mind, which was basically target gets plus X minus X, where X is usually a fixed number depending on the spell or effect that's generating it. The Channeler is +1/-1. There actually was a card called Flowstone Flood. Actually, was the Flowstone Flood? Was the Flowstone mechanic in Tempest, or was it in Nemesis, or was it in both? Wow, I'm trying to remember. It's been so many years. But it was an interesting mechanic. Here we have a Skirk Shaman. He's from Planar Chaos, the middle set of the block, where they focused on chaos shifting. That is, they take cards from one color and put them into another. Probably the most famous of those was Damnation, which was a Black Wrath of God. Skirk Shaman is pretty much a red version of... I can't think of what it's called. It was a black creature originally from, I want to say, Onslaught block. It was a 2/2 with, I want to say it had Fear. This guy is 2/2, and they basically reworded Fear and removed all instances of black and replaced them with red. Interestingly enough, the Fear mechanic has apparently gone the way of the Dodo now, and is being replaced by Intimidate. But yeah, it was crawling or scrabbling something. The illustration was a bunch of hands crawling along a road. It's kind of creepy looking. And here we have a card with Kicker. I have no idea what the hell this card is, because it's in German. I got this at the... I want to say it was the pre-release that was held by a local shop in Germany. I was stationed in Germany at the time in the army. And... this is a Jagende Wildnis. I'm guessing it means hunting wilds or something like that. I remember that Jäger, this hunter, Yagende looks like a variation on that. Wildnis looks like wild, so it's probably something like hunting wilds, hunting wilderness, something crazy like that. I don't know. Hexery, it's probably a sorcery. I don't remember what, I can't tell what it does. I don't remember much in the way of, I never knew much German. You didn't have to learn a lot of German to get by in Germany. You really didn't. That, and I didn't get out much anyway, so hey. What can I say? I'm not the going out all over the places type of guy. And apparently kicker in German is called bonus. There you go, folks. There's a fun one. Speaking of German cards, I believe the English name for this is Frozen Ether. It's an enchantment. It's just a chaos shifted Kismet, which I believe I talked about that a while back while sorting through cards in general. But yeah, it's nice to see that in blue so that it goes completely along with stasis. You don't have to splash white for your stasis deck now. Sarah Sphinx, basically just chaos shifted Sarah Angel into blue. Blood Knight, chaos shifted Black Knight into red. Though some people say he could easily be a chaos shifted Silver Knight. And they're right, he could easily be a chaos shifted Silver Knight, but officially he's the chaos shifted Black Knight. Brute Force, it's the chaos shifted Giant Growth into red. Wrathy Trapper, the chaos shifted Master Decoy into black. Primal Plasma. This was an odd one because they shifted an artifact creature into blue. It was originally Primal Clay. Reverend Dead. They changed the creature types, but it's basically a white Drudge Skeleton. Foresee would get reprinted in base sets. It's a nice card. I like it. Battery on this thing's getting low, so I'm going to try and hammer through the rest of them. Blind Phantasm, full art generic creature card was something that they tried doing in Future Sight. It's nice. I like them. They had at least one in each color. They were nifty. Here we have a card that's both an enchantment and a creature. That's kind of interesting. I don't know if they're ever going to revisit that design space or not. We'll see. Bloodshot Trainee. Hey, look, he was reprinted in Scars Block. And he was a future shifted card. There have been a handful of cards that have been future shifted that have been reprinted in various other expansions. Boldweir, I believe his Boldweir Intimidator was the name of the guy. It's a giant. He got reprinted in Lorwyn Block somewhere. Riddle of Lightning. It's a card really brought back Scry. It was also nice seeing Scry being used as a mechanic in core sets as of late. I really like that. But they're talking about how I remember when they first brought it into the core set. They're talking about how they didn't want to really keep it there. So I don't know what's going to go on with that. I really think cards like Crystal Ball and Foresee and Preordain really are good for the game overall, but that's just my opinion. Needle Peak Spider is interesting. It's not really a chaos shifted card, but in some ways it is. It's 3 colors and a red for a 4/2 reach. It's very close to a chaos shifted giant spider. It's also one of the few spiders that has a power that exceeds its toughness. Cradle to Grave, colorless and a black, instant, destroy target non-black creature that came into play this turn. I looked at this as I was sorting through it, and it occurred to me this is probably pretty close to a cross between Removed Soul and Dark Banishing. Or today you'd probably call it Doomblade. Dark Banishing pretty much was Doomblade, but it cost a little bit more because at the time the standard was Terror, which had the restrictions you find on both Go for the Throat and Doomblade. So go fig. Bog Serpent, there's a Chaos Shifted Sea Serpent, it was originally blue. They tried instituting the Landholm mechanic keyword on a lot of cards for a few years and then let it go. And he's a reference to that mechanic not having a keyword anymore. That mechanic was really just a drawback. Basically, if you didn't have the appropriate land in play, you had to sacrifice the creature, and if your opponent didn't have the appropriate land, you couldn't attack. So, for example, Island Home was the most prominent of those. The only other creature that ever had a land home mechanic, I don't know if they ever actually eroded it to have the land home mechanic. It was a creature from either Ice Age or Alliances. It was a gorilla of some sort, and it effectively had Forest Home. Oh, jeez. What else did we have going on in Ice Age? We had the crazy time-shifted reprints in the first set where you had cards from all over the place getting reprinted. You had Thallid from Fallen Empires. You had Lightning Angel from Apocalypse. You had a Chroma Angel of Wrath. You had all sorts of crazy stuff. All sorts. Plus, you also had the suspend mechanic going on, and a bunch of cards designed to play with that. You had fading coming back under the name Vanishing. All sorts of crazy stuff. And I wish I could talk on this more, but this video is getting long and the battery on the camera is running low. If you didn't play in Future Sight, I really recommend you take a look at some of the Future Sight cards. I mean, just go onto Wizards of the Coast's website, hunt up Gatherer. It's their sortable database for Magic cards, and just start looking at everything that was in that set, because it was an incredible set and an incredible block. TimeSpiral, Planar Chaos, Future Sight, and just wow. There was just so much going on. I could probably just babble about it for hours on end and still not cover everything. Okay, well, I'm gonna finish getting this mess sorted up and put it away and whatnot. You guys have a good evening, and I'll catch you again tomorrow. Be good, fellas.